Greetings, Herbert J. Dunmore here with you, Adobe Education Leader and Certified Technical Trainer. Today we're going to work with Adobe Photoshop and we're going to learn how to create digital montages. Now the ultimate goal is to finish with a project that looks like what we have here. And I'm going to walk you through the different steps, and we're going to work with a few of the tools, and I'll show you how I would approach a project such as this. And this is just going to giving you just the foundation, the template. And then from there, we can kind of dive into some of the tools that are good that we would use for doing this. So let's get started. There are two pictures we have here, and the first picture is a picture of a soldier here, and it's in color. And then there's a picture here of an army group. This is a picture taken back in the early 1900s. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first picture of color and we're going to add that to here, and then we're going to blend it in so that this picture is going to look as if the old and the new were both taken at the same time. And that's basically this idea of the past and the present. Maybe the weapons have changed, maybe some of the gear has changed, but indeed the same purpose of defending in battle still takes place. That's the theme of what we're doing here. If you look at the top, you'll see that one is RGB, one is gray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image and drag it directly over to place it on the layer. Now this is how it would work. And generally, most folks are already familiar with that. One thing I find sometimes when people are working with images and they actually will have two in the same tab group, I'll grab the layer here, bring it up to the top, let it move over, then let it go, and that's going to allow me to go and continue working with it. And then from there I'm going to scale out just so I can bring my image in, holding shift to make sure the proportions are constrained. And I'm also holding the option button so it brings it in a little bit better. Okay, I've selected my image. I have it a little closer. Now if I look at the image, I want to make sure that the single soldier here is going to match the background. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and label. And in order to make it look like it's realistic, there's a few things I'm going to have to do. One, I need to make sure that the size of this soldier here is going to match what we have going on here. So the way I'm going to do that is by adjusting the opacity. Anyway, I'm going to make it right around here, right on 50. I'm going to bring it down a little further here, and I want to make sure his head is going to be closer to the size of the guy's head here, because ultimately I'm going to place him on this empty side I have on the left, as you've seen in the preview. Okay, so that's done. Then from there, I'm going to go back out to my regular view here. And kind of position him so I can see the full shot here. After going back to full opacity here, typing 0 for 100, then I'm going to need to mask this portion out. So what I'm going to do with the background, I'm going to duplicate that just so I can have another layer I can work with. I'm going to call it soldier group, and I have that all set. Now as I'm going to work with the solo soldier individually here, I'm going to deselect these other two right now, bring him to the center, and begin to modify this image. Now I'm going to use a mask, but as far as how you go about using a mask, some like working with the selection tool, some like working with lasso tool, others like working with the pen tool, and these are all great ways of doing so. Today I'm going to use the magic wand tool for starters, and I'm going to click select subject. And what's going to happen, it's going to take a little while, but Photoshop is going to look at the image and analyze it and come up with what it feels works best. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to take a look at what it is that I have here. Now I can already see that over here there's some stuff on the side that I'd want to touch up, but generally what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into the select and mask portion, and then from there I can adjust the opacity so I can see the before and after, and that gives me better understanding of what I need to adjust. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on the shot, and I'm going to speed this part up because this is going to take a little bit of time, but basically what we're going to do is I'm going to make sure that my edges here are going to be soft by adjusting that feather, and then at the same time I'm going to make sure that I'm able to isolate the soldier here in the foreground, and ultimately I'll eliminate the background. So I'll speed that up and kind of work through that process here. Okay, so after I have that portion selected, I'm going to select OK. And then from there, I have the area isolated that I want to work with. Now from there, after I have the portion selected, then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to select the mask, and the mask is going to remove all of the background that I have there. Now if there are any areas that I may have mistaken on or anything like that, I can always touch those up later. But now I have the image of the soldier, and then I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and zooming out here to see a full view of the soldier. Pretty satisfied with what I have. Like I said, I can adjust some of the stuff later. I'm going to go ahead and add this background to have my group once again. And then from there, I'm going to take the soldier and position kind of where I'd like for him to be. And right around here kind of works for me. Maybe I'd adjust the size just a little bit. And then I have right over here what I want to do. So now that I have my soldier there, position. Now looking at the image, of course, there is grain that's here. And he's not as grainy as the picture here. So I need to make adjustments as far as the grain. Also at the same time, he's in front of the rock. So I want to make sure that position that I have here for the soldier, it looks like they're all behind the bunker. So I'm going to duplicate what they have over here first. So I'm going to select the layer of the background, and I'm going to use the lasso to select this part of the bunker because I want to duplicate it, and I'm going to bring that in front of them just to add some depth to the shot. Okay, there we go. Have that selected. I'm going to copy that portion. I'm going to paste, so it's going to create a brand new layer, and I'm just going to call it bunker. And from there, I'll go back to selection tool, and I'm going to bring it out a little bit more, just a little bit, and bring it out there over to the side here, just so that it actually will cover the area where that soldier will be. And I should be good to go. So I'll put the soldier back there, and again, making sure position-wise I like where it looks, and it looks pretty decent. I'm do some fine-tuning. The bunker that I had over here, I'm going to take that bunker and place that in front of the soldier here. So it looks like he's behind that portion. Okay. And then from there, what I will do is take a look at it, just kind of a wide view of it. And I look at it and I can see that generally it's pretty decent, but I need to do something as far as adjusting the tone of this image, and also it's really grainy on this shot, so I want to make sure that I add some of the grain to make it look realistic. Okay, so with regard to the soldier here, what I want to do now that I have most of it all set, I'm going to right click and I'm going to convert it to a smart object. That's because when working with noise and with blur, because the shot indeed is a little blurry as far as the focus in different parts, so I would want to spend a few rounds of revising that Gaussian blur and revising the grain that I'm going to introduce here. Now there's different ways that people introduce grain and how they add blur to different shots, and everyone has their own way. I'm just showing the way that I do it. And then from there, looking at this smart object, what I'm going to do is a few things. One, I'm going to select the object, and then I'm going to go over to my levels and just take a look at kind of what I have going on there. Now make sure that I'll click on so it'll affect just this layer here of my solo soldier and kind of get in the general range. I could spend a lot of time playing around with this, but this is just to kind of show you the different options we have there. Okay, all right, I have that set, and now the next thing I'd want to do is, again, the amount of grain and such like that that I have in here, I'd want to make some adjustments to that. So first of all, again, on the layer, this is a smart object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, and I'm going to add noise. Now with the noise there, it's a really good idea to kind of zoom in a little bit more so you can see what it is that you're working with. Okay, and then from there, the noise that I've added there, kind of fine tuning to see what I like. And right now it's still clear, but I want to get the idea of the noise figured out first, and then from there I can add a little bit of a blur to it. Then from there, I'm going to add one more filter, and this filter is going to be Blur, Gaussian Blur. That looks pretty decent. Pretty close. I'll go up just like a step or two more. Okay. and then looking at the image, now by adding that portion, I have a little bit more going on that allows me to adjust it. And if I wanted to, I still can go back again and add another, perhaps one of brightness and contrast, and I can tweak a little bit with the contrast and such like that within it to give it less or more contrast, because I'm paying attention to the contrast and also the shadows and how it works in this image. Adjust the bunker a little bit more. I don't want to see as much of it, what's in his leg as much. Okay, so then the last thing I'd want to do, looking at it just to kind of add a little bit more to it, you have the soldier here, and what I want to do is I'm going to create another layer, place it behind the soldier, and I'm going to go to my brush, and I'm going to take the opacity down just a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the size of the brush and just add a little bit of shadow kind of behind where he would be, because indeed if a person is going to be there, and I'm looking at the way the shadows are hitting, there should be a little bit of shadow behind. And also at the same time, as I'm working with this, it should also be a shadow in the front, because again the bunker's here and I can see that there's shadow taking place in front of these other folks, so we should do the same thing. So I'm going to call this shadow solo shadow, and then from there I'm going to take that layer and place it up above here, above those two levels of solo and such. And I'm going to, with the same brush that I had before, I'm just going to add a little bit more in front of them, just to kind of give a little bit more of a shadow there, kind of similar to what they have there. And I can just play around with the opacity and such like that to kind of give a little bit something different here. And then again from there, that's going to be the shadow front. And then from there, that's pretty much what I have with my image. Again, like I said, I can do a lot of tweaks and make more adjustments to it. But all in all, what we have here is the composite of something old and something new, and combining it together into this project that we see here. And again, there's more adjustments you can make, and that's why I think it's really good with the ability to take the add noise and the Gaussian blur and being able to make adjustments to it to get it more to our liking. And here you have it, using Adobe Photoshop to create your image.